This is Slime Rancher 2. It just hit early access last week and is also on Game Pass, which is how I'm currently playing it. And it is, of course, a sequel to the amazing Slime Rancher, a very chill game about collecting slimes and learning how to range them all and harvesting their plorts for cash. Now, the gameplay loop at the core of the experience is the same here. It is the same type of game. You are, of course, ranging slimes, obviously. It's all about getting a hold of each individual slime type that you want, understanding what they eat, growing what they eat, finding their favorite food so you can get double rewards, and harvesting their plorts and selling them on the market. But this time around, you are in a completely new area called Rainbow Island, and Rainbow Island is really a set of several different islands that all have their own biomes and, of course, their own slime types, and it's a very large world to explore. Even right now, in the current early access state, there's quite a bit to see. And one thing I should mention right off the bat, by the way, is this game feels extremely polished. There's already a lot to do. There's a lot of different slimes to find. There's a lot of expansions to do for your conservatory back home, and there's just a lot to the game already, and it feels extremely polished. I haven't encountered any real bugginess at all, personally, and I can say that the game definitely feels as if it is in a really, really good state for the public right now. So this is not the kind of early access launch that has a bunch of technical issues to go through and is instead more about just new content. One of the big changes here is how you explore the island. So you will start, of course, in your conservatory, your home. This is where you will make various corrals and farms and things to actually keep all your slimes. And outside of this conservatory, you have a pretty good-sized initial island with some easy-to-raise slimes on it. However, you'll notice that there are a lot of other land masses off in the distance, and in order to get to these, you have to actually unlock teleporters that will take you to them. And this is done via exploration. As you explore, you'll eventually start finding switches in various places, and once you hit these switches, these big rock formations will lower and new teleporters will activate that will take you to completely new biomes. Well, technically they'll take you to new islands, and each of these islands has several different new biomes on it, and is made up of a bunch of new stuff, and of course all kinds of new slimes to find, and there are also lots of treasures and things to find. This game very much rewards exploration because there are tons and tons of little things to find, from rare slimes, of course, to happen across, to little pots that you can break for extra rewards, mysterious new doors that you may be able to open later, and new treasure chests all over the place that will unlock new upgrades for you to craft yourself back home, or new cosmetic stuff that you can craft to enhance the mood of your different areas back at the conservatory. And the main thing they've done with this new world is something that I wasn't expecting but really, really like, because one of my favorite aspects of the original Slime Rancher was that weird feeling you get when exploring the ruins. And there's only like one or two small areas of the first game that have this feeling, but it's there, and I'm a big fan of the sort of mysterious ruins exploration vibe that game had in those areas. And in this game, they've gone just completely up to 11 with that, and the entire island is basically full of mysterious ruins, and the whole thing has a sort of unnatural vibe to it, where there's a bit of a dark undercurrent to the story and some unknown stuff happening that you're exploring and unraveling as time goes by. So as you explore these new areas, you'll be seeing all kinds of different ruined structures and mysterious things, and this vibe, that mysterious ruins vibe I was talking about, is very much current throughout this entire game, instead of being just a small part in certain areas of the original, which I really do appreciate, because like I said, that was actually kind of my favorite part of the original game's aesthetic in general, were those areas. So I'm glad they really leaned hard into that here and made it present everywhere. In addition to that, you're probably noticing that the game is just absolutely beautiful looking. It is really a good looking game. The original Slime Rancher was quite good looking as well, because it doesn't need like extreme graphical fidelity or amazing texture quality or anything, because it's so well stylized and has a very good use of color. But this game in particular has taken that and increased it drastically as well, with even more vibrant colors, as well as a bit more of a focus on lighting and shadows that gives a really nice atmosphere to all the areas. And of course, each of the areas has its own atmosphere, and it's realized very well because of the very good use of colors, the really nice stylization of everything, and the fact that this new lighting and shadow system they have going on just looks really good in motion. And there are some areas in particular that just look amazing, especially the Starlight Strand area is the personal favorite of mine. It looks so good. It's really pretty. It's got this really cool use of a dual color scheme idea, and it's got all kinds of mysterious ruins everywhere too. So yeah, it's just the perfect area for me, and it looks awesome. Back home at your conservatory, you will of course be using your money, your new bucks, to get some corrals, and corrals can be upgraded in all the same ways as the original. You can double their height, you can add an air net at the top of them, you can make them dark inside, and you can also add auto feeders and auto plort suction machines, so that these are especially useful for the more dangerous slimes, so they don't have to actually go in there physically and get them. There are also, of course, your food production facilities like the coop to house various different types of chickens, and there are some new variants of those as well, like these sea hens, which are very cute. And there's, of course, the farm that makes a return as well, so you can grow various different kinds of fruit trees as well as vegetable patches. And all of these are upgraded in the same ways as well that increase yield and increase growing speed and things like that. And of course your main goal is to strike out into the world and find some slimes, suck them up into your backpack, and take them back home and fire them very violently into a corral in order to keep them happy with whatever their favorite food is so that they can produce plorts. You then suck up the plorts and sell them at the market to make more new bucks, which you will use to expand your farm, and so on and so forth. And the conservatory also has several different expansion areas that you can pay quite a bit of money for. These are like mid-game tier purchases. Places like the archways, a sort of ruin-themed area with a few more corrals and things for you to build. A cave area that is quite a good size and is good for more nocturnal slimes, as well as the more dangerous ones that you need to keep farther away from each other. There's a gully area, which is very large and expansive, and also leads to another purchasable area that's even more expensive, that is more like, dock harbor themed, a lot of aquatic stuff going on there. So there's quite a lot of stuff for you to actually work towards and buy, and that, of course, leads us to the new research system. You now have this big research tank that you can actually fire stuff into. You can actually fire plorts of various kinds into it, as well as new research materials. And to actually gather these materials, you first need to craft yourself an upgrade that allows you to harvest them from the world. So there are various kinds of ores, sand, ash, water, all sorts of other things like that you can actually find as resources within the world now. So there are all kinds of like resource nodes, basically, and different biomes have different ones for you to access. You then bring all of those resources, some money, and various different kinds of plorts, and fire them into this tank. And although do be careful, because once you shoot something into here, you can't get it back, which isn't a big deal for other stuff because you can only use it for research, but of course plorts you can also sell. So you want to make sure to have a good supply of them in the tank for use and upgrades, but also you of course need to be balancing that with selling some of them to keep your funds up. And there are several different types of upgrades and things you can craft from all these resources. There are character upgrades that allow you to get things like a jetpack, which is really important because it really opens up a lot of the world. It's something that you should be getting as soon as you can. Also, extra tanks for your backpack so you can hold more stuff. Expansions for your tanks, so each tank can hold more individual things in a stack. Increased health and energy reserves for your sprinting and jetpack and all that stuff. The ability to sprint for longer, and of course the pulse that's meant to give you some room if you're surrounded by things like tar or aggressive slimes. You can also use these resources to build various cosmetic things, blueprints of which you'll find in those treasure chests along the world in various places, and you'll also get them from characters in the comms system that will talk to you occasionally as well. And these just allow you to further decorate the conservatory and add themes to certain areas, and it's a really cool system. The one thing that Slime Rancher 1 was missing was the ability to customize things a lot more visually, so I'm glad they're leaning into that as well with giving you the ability to do more individual customization with various decorations and things to actually make places look the way that you want. And there are also various forms of technology that you can craft as well. Gadgets. There's actually a gadget placement system now. Just press the T key and you go into this like gadget placement mode that allows you to put various things all around the world. So you can get things like teleporters that will take you to certain biomes, or home teleporters that will one-way take you back home from wherever you are and place them wherever you want. You can also get things like water pumps that allow you to actually have water remotely that you might need for different reasons. There's a remote science station that allows you to actually deposit materials into your big science tank remotely, so you don't have to go all the way back home in order to do that every time. And there's even things like the water cannon turrets, which allow you to actually just help against tar attacks. If you have a lot of Largo slimes on your ranch, you may want some of these placed around so that if some Largos appear, you can fight them off with these and not actually have them consume your entire ranch. There are loads and loads of slime types now already in the early access. There are plenty of them. There are, of course, a lot of returning slimes, a lot of classics like the tabbies and, of course, the pink slimes, the puddle slimes, a lot of things like that. But there are also a lot of new ones like the baddie slimes, which are one of my absolute favorite things ever. They're really unnecessarily cute, and they're purple, and they fly, and they're lovely. There are flutter slimes, which are basically butterfly slimes, and there's even some other kind of crazy ones like the new crystal slimes, which send out big, dangerous patches of crystal along the ground but have very valuable plorts. And I've noticed that one thing they've done that I really like here is they've gone hard into making some of these slimes kind of difficult to ranch, because that was one of the complaints of the first game, was that only the very late game, like last 2 slimes that you find, were kind of difficult to keep around. Most of the others were very easy to sort of automate care for, and it was only a couple of slime types that really needed special consideration. But now, in this game, they've made it so a lot of the new slimes are a bit unorthodox in terms of how you have to care for them. There are things like the boom slimes, which can explode, and often will explode, so you have to be careful about how to keep those guys. There are, of course, various new flying slimes that can be difficult to keep around, especially the flutter slimes, which the game actually recommends you don't even put in a corral, and in fact have a mechanic, a calming field around them when they eat that is meant to be used outside of a corral, so you actually have to keep them in the conservatory in general is the best way to keep those guys, so that they're a bit more involved. There are the fire slimes that are new, that are basically like a much harder to ranch and feed version of the puddle slimes. And there's also the new ringtail slimes, which are very difficult to ranch. They are, well, they turn to stone in the daytime, and they can basically eat forever at night and just continue to eat and eat and eat, but you actually have to watch their facial expressions, because most of the time when you feed them, they don't produce any plorts. You have to watch their faces to know when they'll actually produce when you feed them. So these are basically meant to make it to where you can't just put them in a corral with an auto feeder and then just walk away, because if you do that, you'll waste all of your food and you won't get much in return. So these are a lot more involved to ranch, but of course their plorts are very valuable. So then these are just a couple of the new ones. There's even more than that, and I'm sure they'll probably add more as the early access campaign goes on too. I'm sure they have some more ideas, but I like this new theme into giving the game a bit more of a challenge to make a lot of the slimes more advanced to ranch, so that they have a lot more stuff that you have to take into consideration if you want to keep them, and it just significantly ups like the mid-game and on challenge that the game presents, which is really nice. But in addition to that, it also still has that cozy feeling that the first Slime Rancher had, that almost Harvest Moon-like zen, where you know exactly what you're going to do every day. You get up, you harvest your various crops, you fill up the auto feeders, you get some plorts, you sell them, you check on your bats and maybe take some nectar out of your silos for your butterflies, and you just have this sort of everyday routine that isn't boring but is very relaxing instead. But of course, because of the large variety of new content and a lot of new slimes and stuff to find, this means that you don't settle into a routine too early, and instead you have this cozy feeling of being back home and knowing what you're doing, but you also have this exciting feeling of exploration and new content to find, and they're balanced very well with each other. Overall, I would personally say that Slime Rancher 2 is an extremely good sequel to the original Slime Rancher. The first game was like almost masterpiece level in what it was actually doing, and I think Slime Rancher 2 is enough of an upgrade to actually reach that mark, in my opinion. I think that it is already a very easy to recommend purchase or to play on Game Pass, because there's already so much to it and what's here already feels so polished. And at the same time, I'm definitely excited to see what new biomes and new slimes and new mechanics are added in the future. As far as ideas that I would personally have, or things that I would like to see, for one, I would like to see more visual customization of your corrals and your crops and things, because right now, a lot of the cosmetic stuff that you can craft and put in the world is mostly meant to be put outside of your exhibits and things. They're not meant to be used in them because they're kind of small and it'll clutter them too easily, so they're mostly meant to be used as decoration for the area themselves. I would like to see a cosmetic menu in the upgrade screen of each of the corrals and crops and things, so that you can actually upgrade them visually. This would just give you another thing to spend your money on, and would allow you to bring the theme together by customizing the looks of these things. You know, maybe I want one of my slime corrals to have like totem poles instead of normal technological poles, the things on the outsides that project the shield around them. Maybe I want the shield to be dark purple and have spooky faces in it. Maybe I want to add a cloud layer as if there was a little mini sky in the corral itself. You know, maybe I could purchase the spooky variation of my fruit tree, so that now all the dirt around the tree has like little gravestones and stuff sticking out of it, and the tree itself turns into like this twisted Tim Burton-esque looking thing with purple leaves. It still grows the same fruit as it did already, but it just looks different. You know, things like that. Things that allow you to really tie together a theme and just have a lot more customization in general as to what your corrals and farms and things actually look like, I think would be a really welcome addition, because there's a lot of possibilities there, and it would just give the player more stuff to work towards. Also, there's one mechanic I think might be interesting, although I don't know how feasible it would be, and I think it would be cool if we could make triple slimes. In order to give the player something late game to actually work towards, I think it would be cool if we could use the new gadget system to craft and place a new slime hybridizer machine. And you could plop a slime into the left and right of it and then push the button in the middle and it would create a triple slime atom. So you would basically put 2 Largos, one on each side, and as long as they shared one slime type, which would help to reduce the number of variations that you would have to create, you could then create a triple slime out of them. You know, plop a pink rock slime in the left and a pink phosphor slime in the right, and now you have a pink rock phosphor slime. This would be something that you could work towards late game, something that would be hard to ranch because they would be quite large and you wouldn't be able to have very many of them in any given place at one time, as well as if you had different kinds of them together, then the chances of getting a tar attack would be very high, so you'd have to manage them very carefully, but they could give triple plorts. Perhaps the triple slime could even keep one of the constituent slime's favorite foods, but you wouldn't know which one until you actually fed them and tried it yourself. Not sure how feasible that would be, but considering the slime life cycle is the same as in the first game, you know, the basic slimes, the Largos, which are hybrids of 2, the Gordos, which are huge slimes that you can find stationary that often block access to certain important areas until you feed them like all the food in the world, things like that. I think it would be cool if we had something else that we could ranch, something new, and the idea of working towards a machine that could create triple slimes sounds like it would be kind of fun. But yeah, that's my current look at Slime Rancher 2. It is overwhelmingly positive on Steam for a very, very good reason, and is an excellent sequel to an already excellent game. Thank you guys very much for watching. I will link you in the description below this video to the Steam store page so that you can go and check it out yourself. Please do so, and if you enjoy it, leave a good review for these guys, because they deserve it. I'll see you guys next time.